God of War Ragnarök just released on the competitor. And that reminded me, I had this text document that I wrote in an angry, rage-fueled nerd stupor after finishing it 2 years ago. Ragnarök is a good game, calm down, but its story is what disappointed me the most. I can see that now, this seems to be a more common point of critique, but you know the saying, if you got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. It's my second favorite expression, right after Ming Dynasty Pussy.
Got me acting unwise.
I took the first one to heart and came up with my own Ranton fanfiction version that actually keeps most of the new story and gameplay elements, but expands on them. Playing as Atreus, Freya being a companion, the spear as a new weapon, Odin, Thor, Kratos' wife, makes them so much better, bro, trust me. And especially, this is the most important part, I want to conclude this story and make it more distinct from its prequel. This isn't your usual Ranton video. I'm gonna spend a lot of time on the beginning, a little bit on the middle, but I will make it all worth it in the end. I wrote dialogue, how to film scenes. I poured my heart into this. Ever watch Seven? That's me. So open your heart, open your mind, and let's have some fun together exploring God of War Ragnarök. Here we go.
Ranton!
We begin the game with Kratos and Atreus having a heart-to-heart, father to son. I want to show that Kratos is now deeply involved in his son's life and development, similar to the actual game. Many years passed and we shouldn't undo the hard-earned growth that Kratos went through in the first game.
Do not be sorry. Be better.
A good story needs growth and should commit to the changes it makes to the characters and the world. With the player barely settled in, they get attacked by Thor. But unlike the dream at the end of the first game, he doesn't just wait in front of the house, but immediately strikes out of nowhere, interrupting the real moment Kratos is having with his son. Destroys the house completely, wipes it away with a single strike. He's powerful and not holding back. Atreus is knocked out,
Chicken jaw,
and Kratos and Thor fight. This subverts player expectations. You're expecting him to show up and get that post-credit angle, right? But not quite this soon and not what's about to happen. Subverting expectations is good, but obviously not an end in itself. Rest assured, this is much more than that. This isn't some test fight though, like in the game. No trash talking, Thor has come to kill him, full force.
I am not my sons.
He's got plenty of reasons to do this, as Kratos killed his sons. This fight, bro, is epic. Goes to the sky, to the center of the planet, all of it. Thor ends up defeating Kratos because he's, of course, the god of thunder, fueled by revenge. And also, Kratos has gotten maybe a bit out of shape over the past years.
Peace has cost you your strength. Victory has defeated you.
Type beat, you know? Or at least enough so to not be able to defeat a god of Thor's stature, seizing the element of surprise.
You know my past. The ghost of Sparta thing. Yeah.
And I want Kratos to get thoroughly messed up here, more than he's ever been. I want him basically dead. And as he's lying in a pool of his own blood, Thor walks up to him. We think, come on Kratos, bro, get up. But Thor impales his head. And you as the player will think, what the flip? Kratos lost. No two ways about it. In fact, Thor thinks Kratos is dead too and reluctantly takes a knocked out Atreus with him to Asgard. This sets up two very important things that Ragnarök wasn't able to. An early what the fuck moment like Baldur's fight, but much more importantly, a reason for an adventure, a catalyst, and a strong one at that. One that's simple and doesn't require further investigation. His son is gone. Obviously, Kratos needs to get him back. No question about it.
Because all that matters is that you are safe.
And is Kratos dead? What now? The actual story of Ragnarök always made me wonder, why is any of this happening? Who cares? Why not just stop?
We came here looking for Tyr because we don't trust Odin, right?
But now we already know why Kratos would have to seek out a fight or a war with the gods. They took Atreus. It's a no-brainer.
I care only for his safety.
Look how masterfully this was done in the first game. You had Kratos' late wife's last wish of spreading her ashes over a mountain. Plus this Baldur guy showed up and almost ended him. This isn't a safe place anymore. Boom! Done! Adventure time! Any questions?
Gather your things. We are leaving.
During this fight, Thor kills Mimir as well. Stomp on his head as he's unconscious. The gods didn't like him, so they see that as a deserved punishment after he escaped the last one. And also, I think he was a fun dude in the first game, but super annoying in Ragnarök. He never shuts the hell up. Brother, get up, brother. Over there, brother. Wasn't that a bit too much, brother? And I don't want this game to rely on the same comic relief as the first one.
Wait!
Yeah, I don't think he's waiting.
He played his part. Also, if players really care about him, it'll make their urge for getting back at Thor and saving Atreus even stronger. Additionally, it sets up a shift in tone for this installment. This game will be about loss and letting go. Much darker, much more serious. The player will be confronted with that reality very early on and is primed in the right direction. We now have a strong setup for a story. Let's talk about gameplay. One of Ragnarok's biggest weaknesses was that the novelty factor of the weapons was gone. I was bored with the combat. Not because it's bad on its own, own, it's awesome, but unlearning all the cool skills just to relearn them after I've played through the last God of War was disappointing and whack. Yo, in this early fight with Thor, you get to use your axe and the Blades of Chaos with all the skills unlocked from the first game. Copy paste. This would be cool for pro players because they can use everything they remember and feel instantly at home. And for new players, it's irrelevant because the on-screen tutorial will just show some basic moves. They won't be overwhelmed by a crazy amount of combos. Win, win. But it doesn't matter because this will be the last time you use these weapons. More on that later. Kratos' lifeless body is then found by Freya, who has also come to seek revenge, similar to the way the actual game begins, but finds Kratos essentially dead. Dead. There's nobody to fight anymore. Nobody to take revenge on. She's confused. Sees that the house is a crater, sees that Atreus is gone, someone she has no hate for. She can put 2 and 2 together. She's able to relate with Kratos a tiny little bit, enough so to not stab his corpse on the spot, because she realizes that he's just gone through a very similar thing that she has. Losing a son, except he actually died in the process of defending him. She leans over his dead body, but as she turns her back, about to leave, she can hear Kratos make a sound. She turns around, but nothing. She looks angry, clenches her teeth, but then takes a deep breath, looks down for a moment, walks back up to him and takes him to an unknown place. Kratos is now dreaming and we play that dream. He reunites with his wife and we think it's a happy moment. Wow, we get to see his wife. Kratos is in heaven. But she slaps him, attacks him, curses him out that he abandoned Atreus, that he failed as a father, that he wasn't able to protect him, and that he's just totally the worst. The addition of Kratos' wife in the actual game was unnecessary and a huge missed opportunity. I don't think her scenes were very emotional or particularly relevant at all. And she's on paper a super important character. I mean, it's his wife. My wife, very important. And I want her to be absolutely core to the journey that Kratos is about to go on. This vision wakes Kratos up. He finds himself in a prison cell, but he's not in great shape. In fact, I want him to look significantly different. The fight with Thor left him with severe and lasting injuries. Imagine this new Kratos, yeah? His body covered in scars from lightning attacks. His body thinner, leaner, his beard longer and grayer, and the eye that is covered by his red tattoo is gone. I love the idea of making characters actually look different in a sequel. Make them carry their stories on their body. Show the player that things are changing. There's no going back. Like the Kratos of the old game? Play the old games. This is God of War Ragnarök. Here I will introduce to you a very important element, and that's the question of how much time has passed since his fight with Thor. You can tell some time has passed, but you don't know how much. It couldn't have been that long. I'm not making him look like the guru in Avatar. The changes are significant, but could be contributed to his epic battle with Thor and spending some weeks or months in this rundown cell. So you don't give it much more thought. Freya is not around, and he has no idea that she's the one that put him here. He just knows that he's somewhat okay again. He remembers his fight with Thor, and of course, is instantly driven to get Atreus back. The journey makes sense and is urgent. So this is a big plus compared to the pointless meandering we actually got. Tear this, tear that, don't look for Tyr, look for Tyr. Who gives a shit about Tyr?
I don't know how to help you.
As previously mentioned, one of the problems with Ragnarök is that the novelty factor for the weapons is gone. That you have to relearn most of the same moves. And even once you've done all that, it's still almost the same old stuff. They're not interesting anymore. At least not for me. The developers couldn't even come up with a reason why Kratos would forget all his skills. They just expect players to accept it. I think we can solve this. Listen, the player fights his way out of the prison. You could say this is the real start of the game. Bare-handed combat at first, but then an enemy drops a spear. A very basic spear. A weapon that is familiar to Kratos since he's a Spartan. That's cool. Even in Ragnarök, the idea of the spear is fantastic. It's a weak little shitty spear in a random rundown prison, so it doesn't have the strongest damage values. Sets up the possibility to upgrade it later on, yeah? Now, of course, Kratos knows how to use a spear, but he's still not back 100%. Not even close. He almost died. He was not at his strongest when Thor attacked anyways, and it's been a long time since he used the spear. So we have a good reason to give Kratos a very limited moveset and a complex skill tree. Novelty factor, check. Well tied in with a narrative, check. Committing to being a proper sequel, check. And now, what I'm about to tell you is amazingly epic. Players would have loved it, guaranteed. I talked to all of them. Kratos holds on to the spear, closes his eyes, and remembers his young, former self training with a spear for the first time. So you, the player, get to play a young Kratos in Greece for the spear combat tutorial. Before his red tattoo to remember his brother. Before ashes turned his body white. I think I would have commented. I know I would. You can make that so epic. Make Kratos remember his moves. Bro, I get goosebumps just thinking about it. Just one weapon for now. just like the first game, but a new one, a fresh one. It's a new game, it'll feel more like one. And get this, the spear will not be upgraded by finding random items and giving it to Brock and Sindri. We've done this in the first game, but through Spartan memories that are triggered at certain pivotal story moments. Maybe like meditation spots in Black Myth Wukong. Kratos then makes adjustment to his spear on his own. It's his weapon, an extension of himself. It'll give us a glimpse into Kratos even before the very first game of the franchise. What made him into who he is. And I will tie in these flashbacks with incredibly important story elements as well. Kratos is now old, even older than in 2018. I don't want to say he looks weaker, but yeah, he's tired and worn. The memories of his training in Sparta put the fight back in him. He remembers what drove him back then, what made him into a warrior. But not just that, there's a reoccurring general that leads the memories, stronger, more merciless and uncompromising that Kratos was as a young soldier in training.
But tonight, we dine in hell!
I want to show that Kratos looks up to him, envies him, needs his approval, wants to be like him.
Battle is over when I say it is over.
We know that Kratos was often lied to and taken advantage of in the past.
Ares, you will die for what you did that night.
But we leave this uncommented. We just show his past and how his thirst for power and strength and approval from those more powerful and more strong than him drove him. This will be very important later on. Trust me. I'm crazy, bro. I'm crazy. Ultimately, you fight your way out of prison and Freya stands in your way after you've beaten the prison ward boss. The player thinks another big boss battle is coming, but she looks at him with a mix of disbelief and maybe apathy. She seems a bit older, but not as much as Kratos, since it's a woman. Skincare, hello? Kratos looks at her, says nothing. He isn't in the mood for big speeches as always, less than ever before. Atreus is all that he's thinking about. He has a lot of hate and pain in his eyes, and Freya can see this. She tells him that she put him here because she didn't know where else to put him. She didn't trust him enough to put him into her turtle house, and anyways hasn't forgiven him for what he did. She nursed him for a while, wanting to confront him once he wakes up, but his injuries were more serious than she thought, and at some point she just stopped checking in. "Where's Atreus?" is all Kratos mumbles. "I don't know," she replies. And immediately Kratos starts walking towards her. He wishes her no harm, but he is ready to go through her if she's going to stand between him and Atreus. Her need for revenge seems to not be as strong as it once was, plus she can relate to having lost a child, plus she doesn't want Atreus in the hands of Odin. If that's what's going on, although neither of them know where Atreus is, and even if she did still hate Kratos, everyone in the prison just got Kratos. There is no way to keep him here anymore. As he walks past her, she tightens her grip on her sword, turns around and says, "I'm not done with you. Time has not healed her wounds completely." Now she joins Kratos on his journey to get Atreus back. And before you say, "No way she would do that, that's so stupid. Why would she forgive him so quickly?" Firstly, keep the time factor in the back of your head. Secondly, in the actual game, Freya forgives Kratos incredibly quickly. Within one adventure in Vanaheim, she changes her mind.
This is the point where I forgive you. You are not the one who needs to die.
In fact, she chooses not to kill Kratos after she saw Atreus transform into a bear once at the start. She's clearly not out of her mind and driven mad by revenge. Thirdly, I don't want her to forgive him here. I think every main character needs an arc, and Freya's road to forgiveness would be a wonderful arc for her throughout my version. It would take her a lot longer, give her and Kratos more time for bonding, more dialogue. They bond over their shared loss and letting go, a guiding theme. One of the best things in God of War 2018 was the small moments, how in subtle ways the relationship between Atreus and Kratos got warmer and warmer. I want Freya and Kratos' relationship to be that new moment-to-moment core to Ragnarok. And no, I'm not turning it into a love story, but as the game goes on, she shares the things she did to cope with her son's death after Kratos was in prison. I don't have her arc perfectly mapped out, but I do think it's important and I want her to share personal things with him. Maybe how she built a shrine to her son, how she aimlessly wandered far away realms looking for peace. Maybe she tried to take her own life to be reunited with her son. I mean, why not? I don't want them to become lovers or share a kith, but develop a deep relationship of trust, because when it comes to loss, Kratos can relate. And over time, seeing them comfort each other, seeing Kratos open up to her would be heartwarming and beautiful. We can have two grown-up characters with two complex arcs instead of this all-encompassing abomination we got with 50,000 characters and half of them are irrelevant and not even real. I want to limit the scope much more. In Ragnarok, the motto was, hey, let's put him as a companion, Brock as a companion, and Sindri. You get a companion and you get a companion. Avengers assemble! The more characters you have, the less time you have to refine each of them and give them proper arcs. Focus on a few and make that work.
you will listen to me and not speak a word. I am your father, and you, boy, are not yourself. You are too quick to temper. You are rash, insubordinate, and out of control. This will not stand.
Plus, this allows something to happen that the actual game has too. Freya as a companion. I think that's a great idea. The only difference is, in my version, she's the only companion, because her and Kratos' story are intertwined, and since we lost Mimir to give us insights into Norse mythology, Freya can fill that spot. Boom! Now, let's talk about Atreus. God of War Ragnarök lets us play as Atreus. Great idea, love it. After all, he's the second protagonist of this new series, but almost all of his segments drag on for way too long and are crazy boring. Angry Boda being one of the worst offenders. Atreus is gameplay-wise also not as complex, so he can't carry very long segments. His combat is shallower, he has no equipment management, and the areas you explore with him can't be revisited. His chapters are in every way inferior to Kratos. And personality-wise, he's just a little annoying.
The truth is, you're being a complete asshole.
What the hell?
So let's fix this. Let's give Atreus the conclusion he deserves. What is the most common question that teenagers ask themselves? Who am I? What is my place in this world? Is 3 times a day too much? And I don't mean to make that sound trivial, but Atreus is no exception. He's half god, half giant. No mother, father now gone. Surrounded by strangers. He feels abandoned, and I have a gorgeous arc for him that I will tie in with Kratos at the end. Oh, so beautifully. I would make his segments shorter and much more story-driven. No combat. Maybe some environmental puzzles with his bow, but that's it. As he gets brought to Asgard, he's super angry, obviously. Even though he was unconscious, he's pretty sure he got kidnapped, and his dad definitely wouldn't consent. He's not the type. He tries to fight the gods, he tries to flee the realm, but to no avail. And they won't kill him, they just put him back in his room, the silent corner. He meets Thor's daughter, Thrud, who becomes his gateway into the Aesir world, a little bit like in the actual game. We are creatures of habit, and he's but a child. Resistance is futile. They don't let him go, but they also don't tell him what they did to Kratos. Odin offers him other answers instead, teaches him how to use his transformation powers that he didn't know he had.
What sorts of things can I do? Can I fly? Turn invisible?
What it means to be a god, how to command soldiers. He gives Atreus the training he always wanted.
You made it. I am so honored.
Every young boy wants to be a warrior, especially in a world filled with monsters. In the first game, Kratos rejected that entirely.
There is much about me I would not have him know.
But realized that Atreus will become more powerful, so he has to be the one to teach him how to engage with his powers responsibly.
We are not men. We are more than that. The responsibility is far greater.
But now he can't. Atreus isn't with him. He's with Odin. But we're talking Atreus here. He isn't just gonna let go of his father like that, no matter how welcomed he feels. He keeps pressing Odin for answers. Where's Kratos? Where's my dad? What happened?
What have you done with him?
At some point deep into the game, Odin sees himself forced to quench this desire, so he sends him off together with Thor to his old home. Now, nothing but a crater. It's gone. Kratos' body nowhere to be found. Atreus kneels in the ruins where once his bed laid. He runs the ashes through his fingers while Thor is watching. He doesn't want to show any weakness in front of other people, but he breaks and cries silently. Thor says nothing, but his face shows a hint of guilt, maybe regret. His open palms turn to fists. He feels anger for his father for abandoning him, but Thor calms him down, lays his huge hand on his shoulder, and says, "Let's go home, kid." I'm setting up a very important story thread here. Because ironically, I want Atreus to slowly adopt Thor as a quasi-substitute father. A little bit. The man who killed his father. Atreus respects and fears Odin, but he slowly starts to trust Thor, despite him keeping his distance at first. But, you know, he killed his dad, he lost his own sons, and he can see that his daughter, Thrud, is taking an interest in him. I have a lot more on Thor in a minute. I think you'll like it. Don't forget that everything I'm telling you here isn't one cutscene. This unfolds over the course of an entire game. Atreus' integration into Asgard is a gradual process. The actual game does something super interesting with Odin, that maybe he's not such a bad guy and maybe he's right.
Sure, why not? Take it, if you like it that much.
But then it just fizzles out and it's forgotten and hey, I was bad all along.
Got him!
And that's it. I want to play with that dynamic a lot more. Make the player and Atreus slowly realize that these gods aren't comic book villains. There is depth to them. Their urges, desires, flaws, daily struggles and relationships are, as it is so often in mythology, very human. The player and Atreus must see this. But Kratos doesn't.
Oh.
He doesn't know about any of this. He is on a god-killing spree again, becoming more blinded with hate and anger. The longer it takes him to find Atreus, the more desperate he becomes. I hated how Kratos had no personal journey in Ragnarok, no emotional growth, no agency, no consistent personality, no real struggle that carried him through that game. I have one here. Remember how Kratos and Atreus were having a heart-to-heart at the start? As players, we can see that the journey of the first game bore fruits, and they're much closer. That's good, but it was also going to get complicated as Atreus would seek more independence growing into adulthood.
You've already taught me discipline. I need more than that. I need answers. Answers you don't have.
Answers only your mother had.
Now that he was violently taken from Kratos, it turns into an obsession. It has to. Kratos has to get his son back. He's got so much more to teach him about what it means to be a warrior in this world. Atreus is going through an extremely formative stage, puberty. He's impressionable. Kratos knows this, and he's not there to guide him.
Power of this weapon, any weapon, comes from here. But only when tempered by this. By the discipline, the self-control of the one who wields it. That is where the true strength of a warrior lies.
His son needs him. Just as he embraced being a father, that role was taken from him, all the while being continuously haunted by visions of his wife, who shames him for failing their son, and his memories of proving himself to the senior Spartan general I mentioned before. Think of how beautifully that would increase the tension and the stakes as the game goes on. The Atreus segments in between will create a feeling of impending doom for the player. The boss fights become hard to play because you know these gods now better than Kratos. You have no hate for them. And as Atreus befriends the gods, you as Kratos kill one after another. Epic boss fights, by the way. I'm talking... You kill your son's friends and new family. Kratos cannot listen to those that took Atreus from him and aren't willing to give him back right away. Some say they don't know where he is, some don't care much for Atreus, some don't want to say because Kratos has already killed so many gods, some want to protect Atreus from him, some just don't like Kratos or are looking to prove themselves to Odin, expose Thor for not having finished the job.
You do not get to decide my fate!
But Kratos does not negotiate. As the player, you can sense that in the end, there must be a face-off between Kratos and Atreus. Kratos doesn't realize that he's hurting his son by chasing him down so desperately. Oh, the poetry. If you've been listening closely, you might wonder, how does the passing of time factor into all of this? Exactly. Me having to explain this to you now ruins the wow factor a little bit, but I want you to get this because it's very important. I am basically pitching this game to you right now. Give me 200 million and Kojima's number, I will make this happen, I swear to Tiananmen Square. As the player, you just think some time has passed. Over the course of your journey, seeing how the world changed, maybe you keep adjusting how much. Sometimes you think a lot, but most of the time you don't think much about it at all. Is Kratos really older or just looks more fucked up because he got beaten half to death by Thor? Maybe you second guess it sometimes, but it also doesn't seem that important to you. Freya also isn't able to provide this answer because, I don't know, insert explanation here, okay? Maybe in the far away realm that she wandered, time passes differently, or she was in a benzo-induced coma, so she lost track of time too. Don't get hung up on the details, bro, okay? We fix that in post. The Atreus segments start right after he was taken by Thor and show his life develop over the course of, let's say, a year. But you never really know when that stuff happens exactly. In fact, I want to make the player think that Kratos' and Atreus' storylines are happening in parallel. And here's a prime example of how I will achieve this. About 2/3 into the game, we have an Atreus segment. We see that Thor's drinking problem has gotten worse as guilt consumes him. This is after Atreus and Thor have already gone on several adventures together and have shared wholesome moments.
It's better when I know it's gonna happen.
They have built trust in each other.
Thor was really great. I learned a lot from him.
Thor doesn't regret killing Kratos, as if a god like him was even capable of such introspection, but he knows he's in pain. He feels sorry for Atreus, for what he took from him. Despite feeling justified, he feels conflicted. Therefore, drinking. Gertrude sees her dad at a table alone, almost passed out from the mead under the starry sky, cursing. She asks him what's wrong, what's been going on with him. "Leave," he yells, but she isn't intimidated by her father, and he knows that too. His repeated pleas to leave him alone fall on deaf ears. He mumbles to himself. He looks up at her with his bloodshot eyes, greasy hair, and whispers,
I fucked up.
"I killed his father." That cutscene is then followed by the chapter in which Kratos finally gets to fight Thor. As they stand in front of each other, you can see that Thor looks bad. Not badass, just bad, lost, depressed, a broken man. Just like in the cutscene you just watched of him being drunk. This will make the player connect these two events in time, and I want to do that with a lot of the boss fights. It's always Atreus has an important event or story segment with a god or a person, and in the following chapter Kratos kills that person, kills that god. Make the player feel like these things aren't far apart. Plus, you always feel one step behind Atreus. Two birds with one stone. Thor says, "I guess I shouldn't be surprised. He's a good kid, you know. His eyes are void of all hope. I tried."
Just a matter of time, I suppose.
This will make a lot more sense in the end, bro. Just wait, bro. Just wait. I'm crazy. This will also be the last time that we will show Thor to the player in Atreus story cutscenes.
For now.
To really drive home the idea that what the player does as Kratos impacts current events in Atreus' storyline. In the upcoming Atreus segments, we see him being even more driven to power and angrier. You think it's because we killed Thor, but we don't say that. In fact, it's just Atreus' arc of embracing his newfound place, him seeking Odin's approval, him fulfilling his destiny of becoming a warrior, him bonding with Thrud. But this is story stuff. Get ready for another Ranton genius gameplay bomb. I think you already know what I'm getting at. You defeat Thor, and guess what? Some of you might hate it. I have no earthly idea why you would. I think if the game actually did it, you would have loved it. But now that lowly Ranton says it, you hate it. What is it about me that bothers you so much, huh? Is it Taiwan? Anyways, yes. You take his hammer. New weapon, new combos, new skills, new moveset, new options for environmental interactions. Very basic at first, cause it's of course the new weapon, but how awesome would that be? A Spartan spear and Thor's hammer. These are this game's two weapons. That would also make the game's collector's edition not a giant red herring. And it also further cements an important aspect for me. Make this game feel different from its prequel in all the best ways. Less iteration, more vision. Let's commit to this being a sequel, not version 1.5. I know a lot of you want the Blades of Chaos, but hear me out. The way they were introduced to us in 2018 was amazing. It made story-wise sense. It was a moment.
You will always be a monster.
I know.
Also, before they got unlocked, did you expect to get them back? I didn't. It's pretty deep into the game and the axe was amazing. But let's leave the old behind. We have 7 other games where you can use the Blades of Chaos. And it's not like we're replacing it with random crap. The spear is incredibly personal to him and we show this. And Thor's hammer is a pretty damn epic weapon on top. This is a new game. It's the final chapter. Let's not dwell on the past, bro. Please. But how could Kratos lift Thor's hammer? Das ist nicht möglich. Okay, Einstein. Number 1, in the game itself, you can see Kratos being able to exert significant force on the hammer, and he's never practiced or used it before. Number 2, Brock says that they made that hammer. You're telling me that they couldn't make some changes to it so that Kratos could wield it? Come on. Of course they could. It's a game. We make the lore.
They're quite famous, or infamous, depending on your point of view. They crafted Mjolnir, you see. Thor's hammer?
But now, ladies and gentlemen, the great finale. I'm about to tie it all up. The flashbacks with the general, the visions of his wife, Kratos' need to protect his son, the time factor, Atreus finding his place, Thor, and please note again, this is really just an overarching draft, yeah? There's obviously things and details missing. I don't have an alternative game fully storyboarded and mapped out down to the T with every single main and side quest, and if something here contradicts a detail in the lore or a previous event slightly, let's apply the Salvatorische Klausel. One small mistake doesn't undo the rest. I'm sure you guys are much better writers than me. Just let my creativity flow, okay? This is my time to shine. All right, here it goes. You finally managed to make it to Odin's village. The final chapter. The last cutscene you saw of Atreus showed him fully mastering his transformations and becoming very powerful. You see Atreus looking up to Odin. You see the thirst for power in his eyes and Odin's satisfied look. You also get your last spear upgrade before this fight. And in that cutscene, you see the thirst for power in Kratos' eyes. You see the young Kratos and Greece storyline conclude by him finally gaining the approval of the Spartan general and accepting his first mission of burning down some village for him. The parallels at this point should be clear. Atreus is becoming what Kratos became.
My life is yours, Ares. From this day, I shall carry forth your will.
The sky is cloudy, there's a storm brewing, you see lightning strike on the horizon. You fight and kill Odin. This is a big boss fight, next level epic and hard. As the player, you know You've been primed to feel this, that a much more important confrontation is about to happen. Father versus son. It's been a long time in the making. Throughout your journey, you have met and killed many of Atreus' friends. Hell, you killed Thor, and Atreus and Thor had a bond, man. The music is no calmer after killing Odin. The tension is at a maximum, but the fight against Odin has taken the last bit of strength out of him. Kratos looks old, weak, he's bleeding, he can barely walk. You just feel it's the end of the road for him. You don't know how on earth are you gonna survive a fight against Atreus, but nothing happens. Kratos stumbles through the main hall built on top of a cliff that overlooks the coastline, hope to find his son almost fading from his eyes completely. Was the whole journey for nothing? Is Atreus gone? Dead? Did he fall in battle? He takes in the breeze, closes his eyes, but as he opens them, he spots a small shack down by the water, far away. There's a wooden boat and a pier next to it. You slowly make your way down the cliffs towards the cabin. You lose your spear and your hammer along the way because Kratos is too weak to carry them.
And you must be better than me. Understand? Say it.
You will be better.
You're now within 100 meters of the shack. The storm is lifting. The sun is shining through the clouds. There's a person hanging up close to dry. It's a woman. She turns around and lets out a small scream as she sees you. More of surprise than of fear. Kratos stops walking. He's not looking for a fight. And in the door frame of the cabin, a silhouette appears. A man steps out of the building. It is Atreus. But not as a boy, not as a teenager, but a grown man. Boom! Huge plot twist. How is this possible? How much time has passed? And what does he look like? The spitting image of young Kratos in Greece. At that moment, it's clear that every Atreus segment was a flashback and Kratos took years to recover in prison. I get it, bro. You're super smart and you would be able to predict the time plot twist. I get it. Listen, just imagine it done so well that you wouldn't notice, okay? Please do this for me, yeah? Thank you. They all spend a moment in silence staring at each other. The player's utter shock is accentuated by the music going silent. You only hear the clothes blowing in the wind. But this time it's Kratos who breaks. He falls to his knees and Atreus and the woman run towards him. As Atreus holds him like we see in the prophecy, Kratos lifts his head, touches his son's cheek for the first time in years. We can see Kratos is crying. He has no fight left in him. Under tears he whispers,
My boy.
Fucking, I'm so retarded. What's wrong with me? The woman by Atreus' side is Trud. They guide Kratos into their home and sit him down on a chair across a warm fire. Now, bro, I'm Tarantino. Now I want a really long shot of Kratos that slowly zooms in on him. Kratos is following with his eyes what's going on for a while. We just saw Atreus transform in the last cutscene. We were ready for a face-off, but this is the opposite of action. Atreus is talking to his wife, tending to his house, taking care of chores, food, tea, laundry. Kratos is in awe, and so are you. And he can't get a single word out. It's neither what he nor the player ever expected to see. He spots a familiar bow hanging by the wall, and finally Atreus turns to him. They look each other in the eyes, but still no words are spoken. This is Atreus learning that his father is alive. He looks down at his injuries and says with a matured but shaking voice, "Let me get you some medicine." He hastily leaves the shack, leaving Kratos alone with Trud. You hear only the crackling of the fire until she breaks the silence. I've heard a lot about you, your life, your lessons. He always wanted to be like you, you know, strong like his father.
Stop thinking like a father for a moment and start thinking like a general.
No!
Kratos slowly turns his head in her direction and looks her in the eyes. Odin taught him everything. How to use his powers, how to be strong. He did everything for his approval. This is where we show the last Atreus cutscene again, but as we see Atreus being super powerful, the camera pans over and reveals that Thor was watching too from further behind. Not proudly, but full of guilt. She continues, when Odin sent him to war, when they sent him to kill, my father told him the truth about what he did to you. And you know what Atreus did in response? She looks to the ground as she's holding back tears. There's a moment of silence. To this day, he blames himself for not being strong like you, for not taking revenge, for not. Atreus walks back into the room. Kratos looks at him. Atreus was taken in by the Aesir. They taught him many useful things. He found friends, he found family, he found power, he found his place. His trauma of being abandoned by his father put him on a trajectory to become him.
Is this what it is to be a god? Is this how it always ends? Sons killing their mothers? Their fathers?
No. We will be the gods we choose to be. Not those who have been. Who I was is not who you will be. We must be better.
He was on a path to become a pawn for the gods, just like Kratos.
Memories of what he'd done in the name of Ares. Memories of how he'd become a servant to the god of war. A beast. His humanity robbed and replaced only with the will to murder.
But as the ultimate betrayal was revealed to him by Thor, a man he deeply trusted, his whole world turned upside down. It pulled the rug away straight from under his feet. He rejected being their soldier and he rejected taking revenge. He simply left. And when Odin wanted to punish Atreus for refusing his command, it's Thor that went to Odin and said,
Take one more step, you're not gonna like how this ends.
allowing Atreus to leave with Trud, alone but in peace. Suddenly a lot of encounters in the game make sense in a different way, but especially the Thor fight.
Just a matter of time, I suppose.
Thor killed Kratos at the start of the game, but as he got to know Atreus, he tried to make up for it, making him feel at home. He supported him, comforted him, protected him. He told him the truth because he didn't want Atreus to fight for a lie. So years later, when Kratos stood before him, it feels like fate. He still put up a fight, but he wanted to die. He lost his only remaining son, Atreus. And in a way, his daughter too. Full of regret, he embraced his destiny at Kratos' hands. Right before Kratos used his hammer to smash his head in, Thor whispered, Kratos has nothing more to say. He has no more lessons to give. His son figured it out all on his own. Made decisions that Kratos was too stubborn and greedy to make at his age.
I made a deal with a god that cost me my soul. I killed many who were deserving. And many who were not.
He could not be more proud. And it's in this moment Kratos realizes his son doesn't need him anymore. He hasn't for a while. He can let go. Atreus already walked his path. The final pivotal decision he made was the opposite of Kratos in ancient Greece.
The glory he had reveled in turned to horror. The image of his two final victims would stay with him for all his days.
Kratos chose to become a murderous servant, and nothing but pain and suffering followed. But his son chose life over death, love over hate. Atreus, having finally found the courage to speak, says, I'm sorry. But Kratos musters his last remaining strength to lift his hand slightly to interrupt him. Kratos understands that for all these years, Atreus considered himself a disappointment to him for not being able to follow in his footsteps, for being too weak, for not choosing power, for not fighting. But he couldn't be more wrong. He's everything Kratos could have wanted for his son, and he figured it out on his own.
You think I'm weak because I'm not like you. I know I was never what you wanted. But after all this, I thought maybe things were different.
Atreus realized that what he wanted more than becoming a warrior, becoming what he thought his father wanted him to be, what his resentment put him on a path to become, what players might expect him to become, is love. What Kratos never managed to hold on to. Atreus chose what mattered to him the most, and that's Trud.
Do not be sorry, Atreus. You're a better man than I ever was.
Hearing these words, Atreus isn't able to hold his tears back anymore. But this heartfelt moment is interrupted by Kratos coughing in pain. He puts his hand on Atreus' shoulder and says, I need to rest, son. As they leave the room, Kratos lies down in bed, old, tired, nothing left to fight for, no more fire in his eyes. He's happy, but finished. Unable to fall asleep for a while, he turns to his side and sees his wife appear before him one last time, telling him that she loves him. brings a tear to my eye. What do you think? Whatever. Even if you hated it, I don't want to know. Don't tell me. I love it. That's all that matters. I go to bed sometimes dreaming of playing this version. There are plenty of missing explanations, like why does Odin teach Atreus exactly, and then I don't have Freya's arc figured out perfectly yet, but I'm happy with what I got. I hope you can see how this is not only a much more unique game, gameplay-wise, but story-wise also much more final. It's a real conclusion. Not Atreus and angry both are going on an adventure. Atreus hat den Bogen raus. Atreus ist nicht tot. No, fuck that. Atreus is a man now. He chose to become a loving husband, not a killing machine. He broke the cycle of violence that his father got trapped in. Kratos learns to let go of his son, who he can and should no longer control. The father and son arc is complete. I know I haven't talked about that very important event called Ragnarök and Fanboy Winter at all, and it's cause I don't care. I care about the characters. I care about Kratos and Atreus. Make the Ragnarök event super epic with big boom if you want, if you need that stuff. But I love how Cory Barlog, the creative director of the previous game, said it in a presentation. Simple story, complex characters. This video is proof that I'm a pathetic nerd that thinks about video games too much. I promise I won't become a fan fiction channel. I've never done this for any other game. It shows my passion for these characters, yeah? Love you guys. Ranton out. If you want to see my review of the entire game, check out this video right here.